Okay. Thank you. So I am going to call the meeting to order at exactly 5:30 p.m. And I can confirm we have full quorum. With that, I would like to ask Councillor Morrison if you wouldn't mind reading the land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under terms of the Robinson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you very much for that. With that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting agenda dated Tuesday, Monday, 23rd, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated. Questions, comments? All those in favor? And that carries. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we will move along to our deputation. And I'm pleased to welcome Lisa Marie Wilson, who is here to give us an overview of Bill 5. And I understand you've been working at this for quite some time. And we're really happy to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. And just, it's an effort.
Oh, you need to turn your mic on. There's a little button there. You just push and we'll, there we go. It's on.
All right.
Welcome.
No, and I just wanted to say it's an effort of many of us. So, but thank you. So I guess this is all set. Perfect. So, good evening, Mayor Alcock and Council. My name is Lisa Marie Wilson, and I'm here representing the Women of Ontario Just Say No. It's a collaborative of men, women, people, organizations, and groups that care deeply about basic human rights in the workplace. In this case, protection of the right not to be harassed by an elected member of council. In March 2021, Orleans Member of Provincial Parliament Stephen Blaise put forward a bill, the Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act. The bill was brought forward to introduce legislation that would deter municipal councillors and board members from engaging in harassment by holding them to account for their actions, including creating a process to remove from the office. The bill requires that codes of conduct for municipal councillors and members of local boards include requirements for those councillors and members to comply with workplace violence and harassment policies, and creates an integrity commissioner and judicial process to remove them from office for egregious acts of sexual, emotional, and psychological misconduct. The bill was reintroduced in October of last year as Bill 10. In his address to the House, Mr. Blaise conveyed the urgency to prioritize and pass this legislation before the most recent provincial election to ensure it was in full effect prior to the upcoming municipal elections. The legislation died on the floor when the provincial election was called and has since been reintroduced as Bill 5 in August. It's a non-partisan and had all party support. If the legislation had passed, it may have affected who was able to run this most recent election, a change that would have supported candidates that had baseline personal conduct of not perpetrating egregious acts of harassment to municipal staff and fellow colleagues. Okay, there are so many good people that serve the people as elected representatives. However, like every sector, there are people who are guilty of perpetrating harassment in the workplace. One does not have to look far to find examples, such as Barrie, Ottawa, Mississauga, and Brampton, that were cited by MPP Blaise as to why this legislation is so necessary. In fact, the number of examples have only increased since the bill was last on the floor. In every other workplace in Ontario, employees are held to violence and harassment in the workplace policies. Currently, there is no legislation that provides an appropriate mechanism for accountability for municipally elected representatives when it comes to perpetrating harassment in any other job. If egregious acts of harassment is substantiated, the person is fired. And I work for the government as a probation and parole officer. That is my daytime job. And, you know, that is also, you know, so I'm very familiar with that in our policies. And I just wanted to add that, you know, it's important to feel safe in your workplace. And that when acts like this happen, that person is no longer allowed to be in that workplace. In the present, not only can an elective representative perpetrate harassment, no matter how egregious, they can retain their position and seek re-election. This is not acceptable. Let me move. So, this bill is simple. It has two primary components. One, hold municipally elected officials to violence and harassment policies of the municipality they serve. And two, create a process by which the Integrity Commissioner can apply to the courts to vacate a position for substantiated acts of egregious harassment. All claims need to be substantiated, like in any other workplace HR department, and only in those instances where harassment was deemed egregious would an application to the courts be made for removal. If removed, the person would not be eligible to pursue subsequent re-election or be appointed to the council or local board. This is the same consequence applied to candidates who fail to file a financial statement for their election campaign. It's hard to stand here and try to rationalize how a lack of financial disclosure warrants penalty, while councillors guilty of egregious harassment can pursue re-election carte blanche. Something is wrong with this picture. Today we are here to advocate for your support of your workplace safety. As elected leaders of your community, you are responsible for ensuring basic human rights are respected and protected. This bill is the foundation. We are asking Council to pass a motion to endorse Bill 5 and to write a letter of support circulated to your local MP, Premier Doug Ford, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark, the Association of Municipalities Ontario, and the MPP for Orleans, Stephen Blaise. And I did recognize that it is on your agenda today as a motion, so thank you very much. If passed, you guys will be the 123rd municipality to be on board. So, yeah, I was going to say there's Barrie, Springwater, Wasaga Beach, Ottawa, and I happen to know, I'm not sure, is it Chief Director Jeff Lehman is in support of this as well. So every voice matters. We look to you, elected leaders of your communities, to do just that, lead. Please join these municipalities in standing up for the human rights of every person in this province. And thank you. And I just wanted to, I think, did you guys get the information sheet about some of the different?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So, you know, I just do want to point out a couple. You know, the Ottawa councillor was guilty of numerous instances of harassment. Does it say a total of 6 women came forward with complaints? Barrie, which is where I happen to live, and I'm actually also a school board trustee. So I know from myself, when you come around a table like this, things can be said. We talk about harassment here and violence, but, for me, this is not only starting this, but getting to the point where, it includes, racism, discrimination, just disrespect amongst, our leaders, period, right? We're here to set the example. And so this is an important first step to have accountability, because everyone's human rights, whether you're, racialized, gender, religion. I mean, I could list all the ways, but we all have basic rights, and those should be upheld. And so this is the start to, I hope, more coming this way. And so I did want to mention that there's a chance this may get defeated. And if that does, a heads up, I'll be back. We're not going to stop. But yeah, there's a chance that I learned that it may not pass this second reading. So anyway, so just to know, it's something that we're going to continue to advocate for and fight for. I mean, if you saw the information sheets, there's the list is just, it's awful and it's unacceptable. And as a woman and as a mother, as a Black woman, these types of things need to not happen. And so anyway, I look to you guys here as the leaders up in Huntsville to support this bill. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Lisa Marie, for your presentation. And generally, I love the comment that this is the beginning of raising the bar on general civil discourse around the table. And I think that's a conversation that's really important to have.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. I know there are questions. I believe Councillor Stone, and then followed by Councillor Wren.
It's more of a comment, actually. So I know it says the women of Ontario say no. This is not a women's issue. This is all of our issue, and I fully support this in every way.
Thank you so much. And yeah, we do have allyship, and it isn't just a woman's issue. But just because I happen to have a background in law enforcement, the statistics with respects to this particular harassment, sexual violence. Of course, men are also victims, but but thank you for pointing that out. You're absolutely right, but I unfortunately get to see the other side of things sometimes, so, but thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Lisa Marie. Thank you so much for coming here today. I think this crossed our desk, or my desk anyway, a couple of months ago that other communities were doing this, and I'm happy to say that we could be one of 123. It makes me a little bit disheartened to know that it's 2023 and we're just doing this now.
Yeah.
That really, it hurts. We should, so I applaud the effort and the work that you've been doing. And I think around this table there's a lot of support. I'm speaking, I shouldn't speak on behalf of everyone else, but thank you for coming today.
And you know what, thank you, but when you just what you're saying, it's like basic human rights, like who wouldn't support this? Like to me, there are, people, and it's like, okay, well, what, it has to be substantiated. There has to be a process, right? We're not, but it's just, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. So thank you.
Thank you. Did I miss any hands on that side? I didn't. How about that? Lisa Marie, did Town of Bracebridge, I think, just passed this? I
Yes,
believe. And
yes.
Muskoka Lakes, too, I think?
I believe so. So
So,
I used to live in Huntsville.
wow.
So yes, I know
good,
Councillor Helena
Yes.
Renwick. So yeah, I decided that I'd come up here. Like, who doesn't love to come to Huntsville?
Well, who doesn't, exactly. And as you pointed out, this is on the agenda later on in the evening.
Perfect.
But,
All right. So thank you so much.
thank you so
for your
much
time.
for your presentation.
Thanks.
All right, with that, moving right along, I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that regular council meeting minutes dated April 24th, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. I have another motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Cluche. Be it resolved that the Planning Council meeting minutes dated May 10th, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right, and then we're moving right along to reports from committees, and number one is 6.1.1. The first one, Huntsville Public Library Board. Councillor Cluche, would you like to add something?
Yes, through you. The board is now full. We've got filled all the separate positions. That's all done. The vaccination clinics went perfect. They went good, no flaws or anything, and I think they were planning on having another one soon. Also, going to have a public open house at some point in time, and I think we're going to try and tie it in with a function that's happening downtown so that it can be, you know, all one rather not a separate one, but if we can work, they're going to contact the BIA and that, see what's going on downtown, if we could work it all in together, so.
So coordinated effort,
Yeah,
that
that's
sounds
what
great.
they're looking at, just because the foot traffic's going to be down there, and that way we'll get it, so.
That's great. Are there any questions of Councillor Cluche? Seeing none. Okay, thank you for that. Second one, 6.1.2, the Licensing Committee, April 24th, 2023. Councillor Stone, anything to add to that?
The licensing committee met to discuss a particular broker, a new broker, and to ensure proper signage and discuss public safety.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there questions? Seeing none. 6.1.3, Downtown Huntsville BIA, May 11th, 2023. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just a point of clarification, I believe those minutes are actually April 13th.
Okay.
But they're for information only. But I will bring to attention some of the information. The information that is in there is correct for April 13th. And there was a lot of discussion about garbage on the street on Wednesday nights. So the BIA is actually looking at asking merchants to put their garbage out after 10 p.m. or before 7 a.m. And typically there's been a lot of pushback on that, but when we have concerts on the docks on a Wednesday night, and you've got tons of tourists downstairs, or downtown, sorry, you don't want to see all that garbage down there. So the BIA is really working hard on that. And it's funny because that's April's meeting. I want to share with you what happened last month, but just highlight some of the street furniture that's going out is a big topic. So unfortunately, it's not in the minutes, but I feel like I should talk about it, but I won't. Well, can we talk about it if it's not in the?
I think it's an update.
It's an
So
update?
it's an
So
update.
the
There
update-
isn't a motion, so I
Okay.
believe you can.
So the update from
Absolutely.
the BIA and through the town as well is that the placement of the furniture downtown is happening, and that there's still an ongoing, there's a map that's out there, but there's some gaps that are happening. So I believe with the BIA and with Lauren from the town, I think Tarmo was involved as well, but just to take another walk around and fill it up a little bit more without blocking any of the roadways or sidewalks. So, but we want it to look full and we want people to be able to sit. That's really important.
Okay,
So,
thank you for that.
You're
Does that mean where we're putting furniture back, we've changed the location from last year? Is that sort of
A
the
lot of-
implication?
Through your worship, a lot are in similar locations, but
But
they've
not
tweaked
quite.
some of them.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, that's great. Well, thank you for that update.
You're welcome.
And so when is that walkabout happening?
I don't know yet,
Okay,
but I will
all
let you
right.
know. Do you
And
want to join us if we do?
Depends when it is.
Okay.
But yes. But I think, did you go first, Councillor Stone, followed by Councillor Schumacher? And maybe there was someone over there.
I just have a question
Yes.
about Tim Withy attending the BIA
Yes.
and about a parking garage. What was the discussion and
And how
what's
did-
happening?
You're right.
So Tim Withy was asked to come, and he had actually campaigned on having a parking garage in downtown at one point. So he was invited back to come and talk, just as a layperson, and he was looking in his election campaign at the parking lot behind here, the High Street parking lot. High ideas, just looking at it, but you know, it would still be something that would be great to look at for downtown. That we do not have a parking garage downtown, and we do not have enough parking areas. So I don't know where we go with that, if it comes back to council, but I think it should at some point, maybe. Yeah?
If I may follow up on that, so
Certainly.
it was the intention that there might be a recommendation coming from BIA with respect to that, and that's what former Councillor Withy was looking for.
That's correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we can look forward to that coming from the BIA.
I believe so. Yep.
All right, thank you for that. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Chair Alcock. To Councillor Renwick, could it be possible that maybe someone from Accessibility does the walkabout as well for that downtown? Just because we did have some conversation today at Accessibility around the placement of some of the furniture and things that go out as like handheld issues. Sometimes people, we know there's a bit of curves sometimes with that new sidewalk in certain places, so having strategic locations where people can use them as handhelds as an opportunity where there isn't a railing or something like that would be a good option.
Yeah, if I may, Your Worship, absolutely, Chair Schumacher, if yourself or someone would like to join us. Like I said, nothing has been set in stone yet, but I think there will be a walkabout, and I think Councillor Morrison was also interested in coming, so, yeah, great. The more the merrier, people.
That's great. That looks like it will be quite busy, that one. That's good. No, that's great. Who did I miss? Councillor Cluche.
Through you. What are their thoughts on the redoing of the sidewalks? Feelings, so that we know?
Thank you, through your worship. To you, Councillor Cluche, I think around the BIA table, they understand why it needs to be done and that it is part of the contract that was initiated. So, of course, the business owners are not happy about having to have 2 weeks of construction again, but they're going to do it as quickly as possible, and the streets will look even better when it's done. So it's something that needed to be done. You know, get it done now before the height of the season hits us. So, but thank you for the question.
Good question. Deputy Mayor Armour. Look at this.
Thank you.
Look at all of the activity around this one item. It's
Thank you, Worship. Just through you about the sidewalks, we did discuss that at the EPW meeting last week, and they were saying that the road actually has a 2-year warranty on it, Main Street, so you might see stuff happening over the next 2 years. So with the sidewalks themselves, they're going to be looking at the base stability to see if they properly put in proper bases for the sidewalks. So hopefully they did, and they're not having to dig up too much, but
And
it's going to be interesting the next little bit.
Sorry, if I may, what is EPW?
Oh,
Public Works?
Yeah, engineering and public work. It's a
Thank you.
district.
Thank
At
you.
the district,
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah.
I think it's good that you're calling out the deputy on acronyms. That's good. We get very, lax with that sort of thing. Okay, any other questions for Councillor Renwick? Okay. Thank you for all of that. And so I'm moving to 6.1.4, which is the Huntsville Chamber of Commerce. And Councillor Stone, your name is beside this. Was that? The Huntsville Chamber of Commerce update. Normally that should be Councillor Renwick. So I wondered if maybe she was away or, no.
No, I
I'm
wish
going back to you.
I would like to
then.
throw it to
Yeah.
Councillor Stone, please. 'Cause
See, I like to do that to
I know.
Councillor Stone. It just keeps him on his toes,
through you, Your Worship, there was no Chamber of Commerce meeting. They did have their beer fest on the weekend,
Right.
which was a little bit of rain, but that's another issue. But absolutely, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for that. All right, and finally, under 6.1.5, Municipal Accommodation Tourism Tax Committee, that would be Councillor Morrison. Would you like to provide an update? Is there an update?
Not a whole lot. I'll just throw it to Councillor Stone. He was there with me, so was Lauren. We just had a meeting just before this meeting. Councillor Stone, and Lauren McDermott, and myself, we're just at the moment looking at finalizing the search for an executive director and looking at more collaboration with the town, but there wasn't anything of substance beyond that.
Okay, thanks for that. That's helpful. So what's their timing on that look for the executive director? You may
Yeah.
have just said that, but I,
No, actually, that was discussed today. We are bringing information back to the town that we would like to put the job ad out there on August 1st with the idea of having someone hired no later than October 1st and that they would start at the end of October. And that would give someone at least a month to give proper notice and everything else. So, yeah, so it's coming along.
that's a good stretch of time. Okay, thanks for that.
No problem.
All right, so moving along to reports for adoption under 6.2, our first agenda item. 6.2.1, I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the General Committee meeting minutes dated April 26, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated, with the exception of recommendation GC 88-23 to be pulled and voted on separately. Are there questions or comments with respect to the rest of the minutes? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. So, I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that staff be directed to review an interim control bylaw to investigate community planning permit and official plan changes that would restrict short-term rental accommodation uses, and further that staff be directed to hold one open house to gather information for the report, and further that a report be presented to General Committee for consideration. So that's the motion that we've pulled from the previous minutes, and I will read the following motion. It has been moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that recommendation number GC 88-23 be tabled. And would you like to speak to that, Councillor Morrison, or that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, basically in consultation with our clerk and our chief building official, we decided this is the best course of action at this time while we gather more information, and that we still have this as an option, but we're going to circle back and look at all other options as well. So that's all.
Thank you for that. I gather there was some additional information we didn't have at the time that we had dealt with this. So I appreciate that explanation. Are there any questions with respect to the new motion? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Beauty. All right. Moving right along, I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Morrison, whereas the CAO provided a closed session organizational structure overview to Council on April 24th, 2023 to approve the position of a Director of Corporate and Community Strategy with direction to report back. Now therefore be it resolved that funding for the position of Director of Corporate and Community Strategy for the remainder of 2023 be taken from the Human Capital Reserve, and further that future costs associated with the position be funded through the annual levy. Would you like to speak to that? Oh, okay. I need to put my glasses on. Well, hello, Ms. Smith. Nice to see you. And I assume you're going to speak to this report.
Briefly, yeah.
Briefly, all right, and then we can ask you questions. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. So the report before you tonight is in response to a verbal report by the CAO in closed session at the last meeting, wherein the CAO consulted with Council on the creation of a new Director of Corporate and Community Strategy position and the appointment of Riva Frame to that position. This report confirms those items and provides for the funding of the position through the Human Capital Reserve, as outlined in the report. It also includes the purpose and general scope of the position.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from Council? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Then I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you. And I just made my signature look pretty wild. Okay. All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that Council approve the repairs to the following equipment. 1, 2012 John Deere motor grader. 2, 2014 case loader backhoe. 3, 2012-2020 refurbished Volvo motor grader. And 4, the 2019 Caterpillar wheeled excavator. And further that the repairs be funded from the Fleet Capital Reserve at a total of $480,000. Over to you, sir. Mr. Ukivi, Director Ukivi is here to speak to this.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of Council. So the 4 pieces of equipment that we're looking to have repaired all have significant or major malfunctions that they've suffered. Many different reasons why the malfunctions have occurred coincidental that it's all happened all at once. And most importantly is that each one of these pieces of equipment is critical to our road maintenance program. So this time of year, the motor graders, both of them, one requiring a new engine, one requiring a new transmission and turntable, are essential to getting rid of a lot of the potholes and very uneven road surfaces in the spring after the thaw, particularly for our gravel roads. In the winter, these same pieces of equipment are used essential to clearing snow and high banking in the rural areas. The loader backhoe, its primary function is actually the busiest time would be starting now, and that's for ditching purposes and road maintenance, replacing culverts. In the winter time, it would be for clearing drainage and making sure that the water's flowing properly and not overflowing places and freezing up. The wheeled excavator, that one is used predominantly to load all of our dump trucks with materials. In the winter, it would be sand salt mixture. In the summertime, it is to do a lot of the kind of excavation and groundwork that we have done around for roads maintenance. Bottom line is that this equipment needs to be treated as emergency equipment, emergency vehicles, or very similarly to emergency vehicles in the sense that if the snow is not cleared in the winter, emergency vehicles aren't getting anywhere. And we need this equipment to make sure that that continues to happen. So I leave it to council for questions.
Okay, thank you for that. It's really unfortunate it all happens at once, huh? Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Your Worship. Good job. Being in the business like this, I understand these type of repairs that can take place, and they all seem to happen all at once. What they've happened to us. Just wondering, are we looking at redoing our maintenance program into restructuring it to a proper? Well, I wouldn't say maybe we have it now, but I don't know exactly what we have now. But are we going to look at redoing our maintenance program so these big things, ticket items, don't hit us all at once?
Through you, Your Worship, already in play. So we're going to, we've borrowed from the emergency services world with our fire partners, also with paramedics and police, very similar programs where we institute what are known as ABC inspections, A being short interval every 6,000 kilometers. There's an equivalent engine hours and equivalent time frame. So 3 months would be basically the time frame. The B would be 18,000 kilometers and C would be an annual at 36,000 kilometers, each one having its own level of maintenance. And if you're doing if you're doing a B, you're also doing an A. If you're doing a C, you're doing an AB, and you're going through the full maintenance program. To get underway with that, what we've done so that all of them don't come due all at the same time, because that would overwhelm the system, is we've spread out all of the annual certifications on each piece of equipment, which is already underway right now. So we're using both our town mechanics internally as well as where we need to for contracted services to make sure that we're getting everything up to speed and making sure that that maintenance is adhered to. So that is work that's already in place.
And could you just let everybody know exactly, off the top of your head, how much each piece of equipment would cost to replace it if we were to replace it today?
Okay.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
Through you, Your Worship, the motor graders are the ones that we've actually had quoted on. Those are $850,000 a piece, and that is with our canoe discount that we would get from for municipal procurement. Haven't looked into the other two pieces of equipment specifically, but ballparking it, they would be a minimum of $500,000 each.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking the director to highlight that. That puts it in perspective, absolutely. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the report, Director Ukivi. My question sort of follows along the same line as Councillor Cluche, and I guess my question is, have we not had a preventative maintenance system in place in the last 10 years?
Through you, Your Worship,
That
what
may-
I would say is that there's been a lot of inconsistency
Okay.
in the operations in terms of people moving through the system and people in different roles at different times, and there have been different levels of maintenance that have been performed throughout that time, but there hasn't been a consistent program per se that's been adhered to.
Okay.
Happy to provide further detail later in the agenda. We do have an item to speak to that.
Okay. And just a follow-up, thank you. And would the maintenance be done by somebody internally, or is that something that we would have a quote by someone else, a mechanic that's outside of?
Through you, Your Worship, it would be a combination. So, and it just really depends on resourcing, but the emphasis is going to be on, there are no excuses not to get it done. So if, for example, we have a series of vehicles that all come due at the same time, we've got 2 mechanics, 5 pieces of equipment, mechanics would take care of 2, and 3 would probably be farmed out.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Through you, being familiar with an ABC service process, are you going to run that just not on the equipment, but are you going to put the town trucks through the same process or just the equipment itself?
Through you, Your Worship, the emphasis on the front end is going to be on the heavy equipment to make sure we get that program up and running. But then, yes, the plan is to run the entire town's fleet. That includes any kind of pickup trucks, cars, vehicles, anything that we have across the town through that same maintenance package.
That's excellent. Back to Councillor Renwick.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I did have one question, and looking at the $480,000, and you said it was an estimate for each one, like 120, give or take, for each one. By doing this repair on each of these machines, and again, because I'm new, I looked at what these machines, I took up pictures and I wanted to see what they look like. These are big machines. By doing these repairs, will that give us the extended life that you quoted in the actual report, saying that until 2035, I think some of them were?
So
Yep.
through you, Your Worship, bottom line is yes, it extends the life of it, provided the work is done correctly and that we continue that maintenance program. We can't just get it fixed and then do the same old thing over again, expecting a different result. So we have to keep up with it and stay on top of it. We have to be looking at this from a perspective is that there will be an ongoing cost for parts that we wouldn't have necessarily spent on in the past, but that is the cost of keeping these things in good condition operating on the road.
Well, thank you, everybody, for those good questions. Much appreciated, and thank you for the explanation. I will call the vote. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right. So we have moved, we're at bylaws. Whoa. Whoa. You marking the time, Councillor Stone? Just want to. I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2023-59 to 2023-63 inclusive be reported and passed this 23rd day of May 2023. 8.2.1 bylaw 2023-59, repeal and replace of cash in lieu of parking bylaw. 8.2.2 bylaw 2023-60, amendment to fees and charges bylaw 2022-125 is amended. 8.2.3 bylaw 2023-61, amendment to appointing of statutory officials bylaw 2023-49 is amended. 8.2.4 bylaw 2023-62, Roberts Original Road Allowance Closure, 101 Price Point Road, and 8.2.5 bylaw 2023-63, Bigelow CPP 454 Markles Road. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Okay. So, under new, we are at the first item under new business, 9.1. And this is the motion we were talking about earlier. I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Huntsville express its support for Bill 5, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act, which would require the Code of Conduct for municipal councillors and members of local boards to include a requirement to comply with workplace violence and harassment policies and permit municipalities and local boards to direct the Integrity Commissioner to apply to the court to vacate a member's seat if the Commissioner's inquiry determines that the member has contravened this requirement. And further, that this resolution be circulated to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honourable Stephen Blais, local MPPs, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and Muskoka municipalities. Are any questions? I think we asked our questions earlier. I will call the question. All those in favor? And look at that, it carries unanimously. That's great. Thank you, Council. All right. Item 9.2, the report from the Ontario Ombudsman. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Huntsville receives the final report from the Ontario Ombudsman regarding an investigation into a closed meeting held on September 28th, 2022. And further, that Council confirms its intentions to remain transparent in providing sufficient information about the general topic of discussions in its resolutions proceeding into closed session. And there was a report on this in the package. Are there any questions with respect to that report? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries as well. Okay. This one is very exciting. Okay. I have a motion. This is item 9.3, Muskoka Road 3, under paved shoulders. I have a motion moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Whereas the installation of paved shoulders to promote active transportation on Muskoka Road 3 is desirable to the town of Huntsville. Now therefore, be it resolved that the town of Huntsville request that the district municipality of Muskoka assess the feasibility of installing paved shoulders on Muskoka Road 3 within the town. And further, that prior to proceeding with design and implementation, the district be requested to provide the town with the results of the feasibility assessment, estimated costs, and plan for capital construction. And further, that council acknowledges the town of Huntsville is responsible for 50% of the costs. And further, that the resolution be forwarded to the District of Muskoka. And I'm wondering if any one of us would like to speak to this, or, yeah, okay. Who would, Councillor Stone?
Well, thank you.
We
So-
all want to speak to this one.
Yes, well, active transportation is on the top of my mind, and this is an opportunity for us to have some paved shoulders for walking and biking, certainly in an area that desperately needs it. And I spoke with Commissioner Steele today, actually, and although this is about Muskoka Road 3, there'll be another motion coming because the district is doing a portion of Aspiden Road, of which we will have the same ask coming forward. So this is a small start to a big problem.
Thank you very much for that. And the exciting part is that the work is being undertaken by the district, and so we're just getting in there exactly the right timing. And thank you for speaking to Commissioner Steele. That's fantastic. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and perhaps through you to Councillor Stone. How far along Muskoka Road 3 are we talking? Are we talking the entire distance to, maybe you can clarify how far it goes?
Sure. The one project, there are two sections. One starts just past the hospital out to Hibbert. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Armour knew that. Hibbert's Lane, right? Hibbert's Lane. The other section is on the other side of Highway 11, starts at Highway 11 and goes out to Etwell Road. Yeah. So, which was an area that was identified quite some time ago as to the need for paved shoulders because it was part of the Trans-Canada Trail, as is the other one, but this one had been identified earlier in a previous project. So, yes, Deputy Mayor Armour, what have I left out?
Thank you. Just on Muskoka Road 3, Your Worship, it is coming from Highway 11 to Hibberts Road, so it's actually coming south. So, yeah, not starting at the hospital. So it's going to come down. It's just short of Spruce Glen School. by about a half a kilometer, 500 meters or so, and then the next phase will be the rest of it. So it's, just to clarify that.
Thank you, and that's great, that clarification. It actually does speak to what Councillor Stone said, which is the first step.
Yeah. And in,
So we'll keep on it, is what we're doing,
And
right?
in conjunction with that, we spoke to Commissioner Steele too, and he's looking at a few different options here where we're narrowing the laneway,
Yep,
moving the road a little bit over to the one side so we can widen the path on one side of the road wider than the other side. So it's all good.
it's
and,
so exciting.
Yeah. And personally, I like to, as we go forward, I like to see this motion come up, that we have a standing motion with the district. Anytime they're working with district roads, that they look at doing paved shoulders and putting bike lanes in, pedestrian lanes in for us.
Totally agree. Great suggestion. And thank you, everybody. Oh, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Yeah, great idea by Deputy Armour with that motion, and I'd just like to say I'm excited as well about, we're gonna see some results on that section of road. It's we all get lots of calls on it. So it's exciting to see some things gonna happen out that way. I think that'll make a lot of people happy. We know it's gonna be a split cost 50-50 between Town of Huntsville and the District of Muskoka, so I'm not excited to see what that's gonna cost, because there will be a cost associated with it, but it's a blessing that it is on a district road, that they will cover 50% of it, so that's the bonus and the trade-off here. So, yeah, I'm happy to see something happening out there. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments, and for what it's worth, it's not unusual to Huntsville. That is the policy across the board. Georgian Bay Township just passed a similar motion to this. So I hear you, but I also think that it's really exciting that we can move forward, and especially in this area. It speaks exactly to the petition that we received, so very cool. I have read the motion. I think I read the motion. All right, that's good. I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries all right. Way around too. Good stuff. So, the next item. All right. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Cloutier, whereas Muskoka Conservancy successfully launched a fishing line recycling program to collect used fishing line at public locations. And whereas Muskoka Conservancy is looking to expand the fishing line recycling program into the town of Huntsville. Now therefore be it resolved that council support in principle the Muskoka Conservancy fishing line recycling program, and further that staff be directed to work with Muskoka Conservancy to find 2 suitable locations to place the fishing line recycling tubes to the satisfaction of the Director of Operations and Protective Services. And I think that I'd like to ask Deputy Mayor Armour if he would speak to this. I think it's a great motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Conservancy actually reached out to me last week, and we're looking for locations in Huntsville. They currently have it in Gravenhurst and in Bracebridge, and I think it's a great opportunity for us. They install them, they maintain them, they look after them, they collect the recycling. Basically, it's a tube that will go on the dock in a location that agreed upon with Parks and the Director. And so when you come back with your boat and you got some used fishing line in the bottom of your boat, a place to throw it, and then it gets recycled instead of it ending up in our waterways, et cetera. So they only asked for 1 originally, and I thought this might be a great opportunity. Let's go for 2. And personally, I was thinking someplace like Avery Beach, and then Lake of Bays, actually. Out in Lake of Bays, our dock we have out there. That's another area where a lot of boats get launched for fishing. So that's a good news story for us, I think.
I think that's great, and it's effective, right? That's great. Any questions for Deputy Mayor Armour? I think it's terrific. I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward, Deputy Mayor Armour. That's really good. All right, so look at that. We have moved 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. The next item under new business is 9.5, which is an update on the West Road construction. And Director Yukivi, if you wouldn't mind doing a quick update on that, that would be great. I think I asked for this, I may have, and this is the reason. Part of it is the district's going ahead with a number of projects here and there, and I think sometimes I know I ask and think, oh, right, that one, I didn't realize that was happening now. And so it's nice to be able to inform the public of what's going on. So this is one of them. Over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the reconstruction is not a full road reconstruction. It is a resurfacing with spot repairs on the worst portions. So the first stage of the construction is to identify the worst portions of West Road, where the substructure of the road is in poor condition, causing the surface to become extremely poor. Dig it up, make sure that the aggregate depths are correct or the gravel underneath is correct, and then repack it and repair that. Once those repairs are completed in a number of different locations, I think they've identified 8, then they shave down the entire stretch of roadway and resurface it with asphalt. This is a temporary fix until the full road reconstruction would be taking place at the natural lifespan of that roadway.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there questions? Yes, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a brief question. Does that extend all the way over the bridge as well? Or is that considered another project that they're doing on the bridge towards Ravenscliff?
Through Your Worship, the actual bridge itself is an MTO project, and it is a very separate project from the West Road rehabilitation.
But it is happening at the same time, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good.
Thank you for that question. So the intersection of West Road and Center, that's being right. It's not just it's patch and.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's the resurfacing project
Right.
where they've actually shaved it down and they'll be
okay,
filling it back
right.
in. Yep.
Gotcha. All right, Councillor Schumacher.
Well, just with respect to the bridge, I believe Aspidin was done last summer, Ravenscliff is this summer, and then are they going to 60 would be probably next summer?
Through Your Worship, the MTO does have a schedule for that, where they are going through, overpass to overpass, and they've got different areas being done at different times. So if you go further north into kind of even further north than Novar, but further up Highway 11, they do have some bridge rehabilitation going on up there. They just don't do sequential ones all at the same time. So they basically, they'll take their time and work their way up. Highway 60, to my recollection, isn't in the near term, so it wouldn't be next year, for example. So.
Okay. Thanks for that update on MTO. Are there any other questions? Councillor Cloutier, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud. I think Highway 60 was done a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, so.
Appreciate that. That's informative. Thank you. Helpful. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Through you, just to everybody, more of a comment, the fact that last couple of years we had Main Street dug up. Now we have West Road having dug up. We're going to have Muskoka Road 3 dug up. So it's going to be another busy year. So just let everybody know as best you can. But it's all going to look great when it's done.
When it's done, that's amazing, huh? And the heat will take it, District. That's okay. Sorry, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and I'll just follow up from Deputy Armour's comments. It may be a challenging summer, as it has been in the past with construction, but I think for the most part, from speaking for myself, I'm extremely happy to see some of the roads starting to get fixed up, and we need to look at that from a positive point of view, and I think people will be very happy to see some results. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I agree. Are there any other questions? And thank you very much, Director Yukivi, for that update. Appreciate it. Okay, I'm moving right along. Item 9.6, the crosswalk in rainbow colors on Main Street. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Whereas the town of Huntsville is committed to establishing and maintaining a safe, caring, inclusive, equitable, and welcoming environment for citizens. And whereas council recognizes that a crosswalk painted in rainbow colors in one way to recognize and support the 2SL GBTQIA+ community, now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to request permission from the District Municipality of Muskoka for the installation of a crosswalk painted in rainbow colors on Main Street, and further that the Operations Division consult with Pride Muskoka and the Downtown Huntsville BIA and report back with costs. Councillor Renwick, would you like to speak to this?
Absolutely. Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess about a week and a half ago, I was walking from Town Hall, and I was about to cross over at the local, and I crossed at the crosswalk, and I looked down, and I saw that the winter had taken away pretty much all of the surface that was on the road for the crosswalk. And then I thought to myself, well, wouldn't this be a great opportunity to add some color to downtown, but also to make our town as inclusive as possible? And for myself, it's a very personal thing. I think for a lot of people in our community, to be recognized and to be acknowledged is a really important thing. So I would still propose to have it at that crosswalk. And with the, in the motion, I think it states that it's just a rainbow of color, but I would like to have the transgender symbol that's in there. And I think there was a photo that was flying around from Guelph that was a huge crosswalk. Ours is obviously a lot smaller, but I think it's really important to extend to our community that we are inclusive. And as a tourist community, I think it bodes very well for us to speak of it. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Morrison, did you want to add to that? I know Councillor Stone would like to speak.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I want to thank Councillor Renwick. It was her initiative, and she called me to ask if I would endorse it with her, and of course I jumped all over it. Our clerk has already done some digging into what the costs were in other municipalities, and I know ours is smaller than Guelph, so maybe our costing would be okay, but there are grants available. I know it's not, we don't want to add to the levy, but this is something, if you've ever been to Key West, if you've ever been to Provincetown, if you've ever been to communities like that, the LGBT community flocks to places like that because they feel safe and welcome. If you come to this town and you see something like this downtown, you're going to come back and you're going to tell your friends. So I think from the tourism play, inclusivity number one, and also when kids at high school see a flag being burned, but then they walk downtown and see something like that, it's the mental health impact as well. So I think it's brilliant, fully support it, and I'm looking forward to pushing it through.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Stone.
Thanks. I fully support this as well. I know we looked at the last term, and the cost was outrageous. And that's why we didn't do that. We did some signage over at the high school, but that's why we didn't actually paint the colors on the road. So I don't know what the cost will be, but I support it until I hear those numbers, and maybe there will be some grants. I would love that.
And grants as well as, it could in fact maybe fit the mandate of some of the HMATA funding as it's a tourism initiative. To the councillor's previous comments, I fully believe that we will find a way without touching the levy. And in recognition of some of the work that's been done already, there are different paints that are materials being used now that are much more longer lasting as well. I think that was part of the issue as well, that we looked at it and then it's gone, right? So I think there are a lot of things that come into it. I'm very excited. Councillor Fitzgerald, okay.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks for bringing that forward, Councillor Renwick, and supporting it. Councillor Morrison, I fully support it. I think there's enough demand for this now that the companies that manufacture the paint may be getting enough inquiries that this will be something that becomes kind of mainstream, so maybe the cost will be reduced somehow when they go into production, because it seems to be occurring more often than not. So hopefully that's the case.
Thank you for that, and that's quite true. I suspect that's quite true. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Through you, I like the motion, I like the way it reads. I'm just, for me, having to ask the district's permission, which could probably really delay the whole process to begin with, is pain. But
Yep.
I'd like to see something in there. We have a standing motion with the district that we don't have to ask them again, and we can just paint the colors annually or redo them annually if possible. I don't know if that's possible, or will we have to go to the district every year to get permission to do it?
I suspect at this point we'll probably every year. However, I totally agree with you. I think it's bizarre that actually we have to ask the district permission for doing something on our main street in our downtown. But that's the way it is currently. And I think we could pursue something, after this that speaks to the general concept of doing this kind of activity. I think certainly the commissioner would be open to considering other options. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Armour, I love that plan for two reasons. The district doesn't want extra work, so for us to approach them puts more work on their desk. And then also it would make the process more streamlined. I just want to speak to as well before I got off of Facebook recently, when I was on there's a lot of comments about the fact that that crosswalk was worn down and that the painting up by Center Street and Main was already worn down. So if anyone's watching at home, they need to know that that is getting painted. Because you see a lot of negativity. Trust me, there's a plan. It is getting done. And if this crosswalk does go there, some of the comments about that crosswalk was that it's hardly noticeable, even though there's big lights going off and everything. So this might be a way to bring more attention to that crosswalk. So.
I agree. And speaking of the line painting, I'm wondering if the director, I could call upon him one more time to speak to the line painting, because I think we've all had comments about, first it was sanding and now it's the line painting. And we were waiting for the sanding to be completed in order to start the line painting, correct?
Through
Maybe
you,
you
your
could
worship,
fill us in.
removing the sand, sweeping, I'm thinking you're
Right, sorry,
referencing.
yeah. What
Okay,
did-
so we're
Did
not.
I say sand something?
We're not
I don't know what I said.
sandblasting anything here.
Yes,
So, no, so yes, before we can paint in any season, we have to remove all of the sand from the winter season, because otherwise you're painting on top of sand and then it just doesn't take. So, the sanding will be now I'm saying it, the sand removal will be completed by the end of May, which is very shortly by the looks of the calendar, a week from now. The brushing will be completed to allow for line painting to begin at that point.
Terrific. So I'm hearing the beginning of June for the line painting.
That's correct.
Fingers crossed. That's great. Okay. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship, through you again. I'd like to put an amendment to the motion that we do annual painting to the district, so we don't have to keep coming back here, and we can keep it fresh and looks good all the time.
All right. So I do have, do I have to read this if this is a friendly amendment? Friendly amendment? No friendly amendment. No, there isn't. We don't do that anymore. Okay, but we have added a word into the proposed motion. So if we look to now, therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to request permission from the District Municipality of Muskoka for the installation of a crosswalk painted annually in rainbow colors on Main Street. Any questions about that? Yes, Councillor Morrison.
I do love that idea, except for I know the clerk has found some information that the material used in Guelph wasn't actually paint. It was like a plastic material, and they shaved into the pavement and set it in. So I do want to go with Deputy Mayor Armour's idea about not having to ask permission every year if we choose to paint. So maybe it's something along those lines, because it might not be painted.
So, or maintained.
Maintained, yeah, let's do that, maintained,
Rather,
yeah.
because it might not be painted, but might not, given the quality of the material,
Mm-hmm.
might not even have to be maintained annually. But in case,
Yeah.
then that's what we would put in.
I think Deputy
So
Mayor
may-
Armour's also speaking to Center and Main, and not just the sidewalk,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
This motion is just about the sidewalk, though.
Just about the crosswalk. Right.
Okay, so now we've changed it again. Staff be directed to request permission from the District Municipality of Muskoka for the installation of a crosswalk maintained annually in rainbow colors on Main Street. Councillor Cluche.
Through you, your worship. We're telling that we're going to do something here annually before we know the cost of
But
doing it.
we have
That's-
the
that's-
following, we have the paragraph, the next paragraph is saying we're asking Ops Division. But in the meantime, we still have to go to the district to ask permission.
Okay,
So they don't, we're just asking them for permission.
but could it be worded, could you put that back up, please, Sandy? Just that it's worded that we're not necessarily doing the rainbow every year, right? Maintained annually
Might be.
in rainbow colors on Main Street. So I'm just thinking, like, if we're allowed to paint our crosswalks.
Oh, I see. You're saying
But the
that-
way it's
The
seems
way
to
it's
be wording
worded,
now.
we're saying with
Like,
respect.
if this is.
Yeah, I see
is
what you're saying.
Tens of thousands of dollars to do this, we're sitting here saying that we're gonna do this every year for tens of thousands of dollars.
But
If it has to be replaced, right?
I'm not reading it as such. I'm saying if, we're just asking for basically a blanket permission from the district. Right now, what we're asking for is the painting of rainbow colors and permission to do that. But we're in the same motion saying, but we don't want to have to keep coming back to you. So
Okay.
that's how I interpret that. Is that correct?
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, it's still, yeah, it's still our decision whether we go ahead, but we at least need their approval. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments with? Oh, okay. I can call the question on the motion as amended. All those in favor? And that carries. Look at that, all the way around. Bob was a bit, I don't know, something about that. Then, and I would like to call the question on the main motion as amended. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, should I sign this one or no? Don't even bother. Don't even bother. Okay. All right. We're now moving to general information. First item is 10.1, and that's our strategic plan update, and I'm going to ask CAO Corey if she could please provide an update.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So as council is aware, we did get permission from council to go out for a request for proposal for our strategic plan process. We did go out and successfully received, I believe it was 8 submissions in total that were received. We had an internal evaluation team that had criteria that they had to evaluate all the proposals on. We did reduce it down to 2 firms. We had subsequently second interviews with those firms, and the team has selected a company by the name of Strategy Corp, which will be familiar to some of you at the district because it's the same company that does the strategic plan for the District of Muskoka, as well as other municipalities in the district, and lots of experience with our strategic plan development. So we have reached out looking at doing our kickoff meetings within the next week or so. So you can anticipate some type of contact with them. I do believe they'll reach out individually. And once we have a timeline, we'll bring back to council what that timeline is with respect to the public consultation and further consultation process. So very exciting. We look forward to working with them. It looks like a great firm. So.
And you may have said this is the firm that did the strategic plan for the district? Yes. Yes, and you said it, but I probably wasn't. Are there any questions with respect to that? Okay, seeing none, thank you for the update. I look forward to that, actually. So item 10.2 is council correspondence, which was in our package from April 15th to 2023 to May 12th, 2023. Are there questions with respect to any of the correspondence? Seeing none, I will move to 10.3, which is our District of Muskoka update. And if I may, I'm going to start with Deputy Mayor Armour. Do you have anything to highlight from engineering and public works?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. A few things. We awarded a few contracts, Bracebridge Engravers to the tune of close to $8 million for some road reconstruction and some water main replacements. We had a verbal update about Main Street here in Huntsville and the sidewalk issues that they're dealing with. So stay tuned. We'll hear more as we go forward on that. We also had a verbal update on special events occupancy permits for all the district roads. So what they're looking at is the safety feature of it all. So they've been working with events and trying some way. I know we had a discussion here about barriers at the end of our streets. So they're going to be working with, I guess, the events holders, et cetera, and they're going to work on maybe getting cement barriers that be in place, whether the district staff do it or whether it becomes the responsibility of the community to put them in place. But that's going to be coming down the pipe shortly too. We also had going back to the drawing board on the Golden Pheasant treatment plant, the fallout. They put that out for request for tender. It came in at $15 million over budget. So they're revisiting that to see what they can do. Right now, our capacity limits are still really good, but they're going to bring a report back later on that one too when they figure out how they're going to get through that stuff. Environmentally, they're going to be changing the hours of operation at Rosewood for hazardous waste. Right now, they do like on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They're looking at changing that to 5 days a week, but it'll be something from noon till 5. So it just gives more opportunity for people to go there and plan their days out and be able to drop that stuff off. And then one of the real exciting ones was a motion I put on the floor about solid waste collection at mobile parks. We found out Rainbow Estates was the only mobile park in all of Muskoka that didn't have curbside pickup and had bags restrictions. So a motion went through. It has to be ratified at council at next council meeting, but they're going to be getting green bins and curbside pickup starting. So they're very excited about that. So that was a big thing. Yeah. And let me see. And also we stood up and got a nice picture of our silver medal award presentation for our water that they drew here in Muskoka, or actually in Huntsville. Yeah, I was.
That's
was great
amazing.
for a while.
That's a great report, and that's, you must feel really good at getting that motion done. The community will feel really happy. Holy cow, that's a super win. Thanks for that update. Okay, moving right along to, are there questions of Deputy Mayor? Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know we get excited to move on sometimes. Guilty of it myself. Great report, Deputy Mayor Armour, and I think it's fantastic that we're getting all these little places incorporated with green bins and in an effort to make things a little better. I'm getting requests from codgers to know when they're going to get it on their private roads. I know that's something that came up at District in order to get the bins removed from a lot of locations in Muskoka. Is there any more update on that?
We haven't had a recent update on that, but as they remove the bins, those cottagers on the private roads will be notified, and they will also be getting curbside pickup. I know we had an issue with a place in Port Sydney recently that weren't getting green bin. I know I reached out to the commissioner on that one, and he's been in contact with those people, and they're going to be getting their green bins. So they're really moving ahead on trying to reduce waste. I think they're at 60% right now, and they need to be down to 35% over the next few years. So they're really promoting it. There's a cost to it, but all in all, it works out great for everybody and our environment. So it's great.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
Thanks, and thanks for the question. So I will move along, unless there is another question, to Finance and Corporate Services Committee. Councillor Morrison, is there anything to update?
Thank you. Yeah, we had a very riveting meeting about corporate services and finance. We had procurement and insurance and risk management, and Sharon Donald did her very best to keep it exciting. But the one part that was kind of amazing is Mr. David Brushy from Muskoka Futures came, and we all know Dave and all the great work he does. Found out that they are thriving right now. I think they are, honestly, from what I've read and what I've heard from Dave, they are a leader in Muskoka Future, in organizations like theirs for across the country. And organizations in other parts of Ontario look to them for examples of how great they are. They have about a 98% repayment rate. They have $16 million out right now in our community, and it's somewhere around 278 loans to entrepreneurs. The most amazing thing is they're not resting on their laurels. They did a strategic plan and decided to pivot how they do business. So they're actually aggressively going after tech companies to try to bring them to our community. They have four, there's Hygiene, Iris, I forget the other two, but four very interesting new tech companies that are bringing jobs to our town. And they know that it's harder to bring factories and whatnot to town now. So they're going after the business, and they're doing an amazing job. So that presentation was really good.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions? I have a question. It's great news about Community Futures, and I guess would they say that because they did their strategic plan, because they're following it, because they're pivoting, is why they are so successful? It's all relative to all of the other organizations like them.
Yeah, I believe they are, as you know, they're not like a typical lender, right? They're not risk averse. They're willing to take a flyer on businesses they believe in. And so they're constantly evolving, which has helped them be successful. And they're entrepreneurial at heart. So they're, yeah, they nurture these businesses. They don't just lend them the money, they work with them and help them succeed.
Right.
They gave out over 100 loans during COVID to help businesses survive in our community, right? So, yeah, no, they're doing great.
Thanks for that. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I will turn it over to the Health Services Committee. Councillor Stone, would you like to do an update?
Well, big event this morning. 5 of us were there at the groundbreaking of Fairvern, the new Fairvern. It's all very exciting, and it will be done by 2025. People are going, really? But the province is going to penalize us financially if we don't do it, so we're going to make sure it gets done. We've been talking about the use of employment agencies at our long-term care homes, and so I asked the question, as a percentage, how much are we spending on these higher-priced employees that we can't fill ourselves? So the answer came about 10% here at Fairvern, and it's about 40 to 60% because of weekends at the Pines. We had an orientation on community paramedicine, which is amazing to me how much it relieves the other healthcare services. We heard a story about one person that was calling 911 41 times in 12 months. So the community paramedicine, they've been able to deal with this person on a regular basis and divert all of the use of health care. So apparently we are somewhat leaders in this here in Muskoka, and we're hoping to expand it. We passed a motion to connect our 2 long-term care homes into one usage so we can have employees go back and forth, which presently we don't. They're separate. And lastly, we heard about Voyant Alert. Now, many of you know about this. It is an alert system that not only the district, but here at town, we use as well. And it's VOYANT, Voyant Alert. And it is very personalized. So if you wanted to know if there's going to be an emergency in your particular area of town, you can tell it that you only want to hear about this particular area, whether it be fire, flood, chemical spills, whatever it is, you will be alerted specifically about that area. You get no extra ads, you get nothing, you get no tests. It's just a great peace of mind to put on your phone and leave it there. Anyway, so I encourage everyone to download the Voyant, V-O-Y-A-N-T, Alert app. And that's it.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions? Okay. With that, we'll move to my report on the Community and Planning Services Committee. It fortunately wasn't a long meeting compared to all of the others. We started with an update on and an orientation on children's services and a report from Deloitte Canada on the Early Years and Childcare Workplace Development Strategy. And the part that is really, won't be news to a lot of people is as we look to the future, the demand for childcare workers is just growing almost exponentially, and how to recruit for those positions. You talked about how the futures has pivoted. Everything is doing that, and our thinking about how we attract employees to Muskoka to fill these positions is requiring total outside of the box thinking, and they are doing it. So that's the good thing to know. We've got incredible staff down at the district that are looking at, we've talked about housing before, but it's everything else. It's how we deliver the services, how we do the work, all of that. So that was interesting. The last time I reported on homelessness, I reported on the additional $763,000 the province was contributing over and above the $1.3 million that they give to us for simple homelessness programs. And so there was an update on how we're using that additional money. And this one I thought was really important to Huntsville, and that is the committee passed the contribution of $97,000 this year, fiscal year, to the Muskoka Community Land Trust to help them do more of their business planning. And the reason why I get excited about that is one of the projects that they are working on and want to start out the gate is here in the town of Huntsville. So this helps them do further work on this particular project, and that was really exciting. So other than that, that's pretty much for CAPS. And at the and I'm sure if I miss something, at District Council, we had two ceremonial or invited presentations, one from the OPP on marine patrol activity, as well as an update from the Muskoka Tourism Marketing Agency. We also had a presentation from Scott Young, Executive Director from the Muskoka Conservancy, and telling us about all of the great stuff they're doing. There were two items that I thought I would mention in particular, and that is we gave staff approval to enter, or authority to enter into the long-term care with reference to the new Fairburn Development Agreement. And that was really important. It's basically saying here is, they're still in the negotiations what that development agreement looks like, but in fact there was a fair amount of discussion around the table, because while the province has been incredibly generous with their contribution, they're providing 93% of the funding towards this project. They fund this in a way that is probably the least favorable to the district. And that is, we end up paying for the front-end costs of the construction for this, which means we pay for the annual interest. And once the project is complete, the province will then step in. So there was actually a healthy discussion around the district table. It wasn't a fait accompli until we had that full discussion. There were a couple of members from Muskoka Lakes in particular who found the formula somewhat unreasonable. But at the end of the day, it passed absolutely, not unanimously, but pretty close. So that was good news for us. The other thing I wanted to mention was we had a very long debate and final debate around the Muskoka Airport. And we put this one to bed. And I will say it was an update from the Muskoka Airport Board on a recommendation to table any further work on a grass runway, the 1230, which the previous council had thought we had put it to bed, but we hadn't. And they were pursuing that as to how much it would cost to build an east-west runway at 1230, which was not the most favorable position, but it was a compromise position. Having said that, the board came forward and suggested that we park the idea because the cost to develop it would be way more than we ever anticipated, which to the tune of $2.15 million. There wasn't a lot of appetite around that table. One councillor put the motion on the floor, and I seconded it to say, no, let's not pursue this, because their motion was, we'll park it and we'll leave it open for further work down the road in case we change our mind. So we tabled it. We will not be pursuing that as an option. Some of us thought we should reopen the original east-west runway, 927, and just to have one final discussion whether or not that one should be pursued, and which was not a position of the board, and as it turned out, was not a position of district council either. So once and for all, district council has closed the door on any development of any east-west runway at the Muskoka Airport. And it may not sound like a big deal, because for the most part in the town of Huntsville, I have not heard a lot of discussion around the airport, but it's been an ongoing discussion at the district table for decades. So this was a momentous occasion, and it's over. And I think I'm actually quite pleased that it's over. So that's my update on council. Anything I missed? Any of the councillors? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just more of a comment that the one runway that 0927, I think it is, or
Yes, it is 09.
had already been closed for 3.5 years.
It had,
Had
but
been operational, so it was really for council to say not to do it anymore. It was actually an easy decision for us, I think, anyhow, because it had been closed and not operational.
and it did help. It did help, but it was closed because it was in terrible state of repair. So there were lots of issues. Anyway, I agree. No more discussion. No. Listen, I'm happy. I'm very happy that the decision was made, and I think it was really helpful actually having 10 new councillors at that table to say, what's this about? And really, it's not as big an issue. For those of us who had been around the issue for a long time, it was a bit harder, but you know what? It's done. It was a good decision. So that's my update. No questions? So we're moving to 10.4, which is we have the National Accessibility Flag Raising on this Friday at 10 a.m. And I don't believe it's a big event. Councillor Schumacher, that would be great if you could speak to that.
Sure, thank you. No, it's just mostly the flag raising. We don't really have a lot of other things that we're celebrating. I just do have the Government of Canada site up. So just to let people know that National Accessibility Week is an opportunity to celebrate the valuable contributions and leadership of Canadians with disabilities. It's to highlight the work of people, organizations, and communities that are removing barriers and reflect on ongoing efforts to become a better, more accessible, more inclusive Canada. And that's just sort of what we want to strive to do and acknowledge in that week, which is, of course, from May 28th to June 3rd. Within that period, I believe Deputy Mayor Armour is chairing the first district accessibility meeting of the term. And we have Member Davis that will be attending on behalf for Town of Huntsville. And May 31st happens to be Red Shirt Day. So if anyone is so inclined, please wear a red shirt. Easter Seals has been the one to sort of navigate that through. And it is in honor of people with disabilities and the great work that Easter Seals I know has done, like with their Access To cards to support people who need support going to movies, that type of thing. So just to honor that.
Thank you very much for that update. That was brilliant. And thank you, Member Davis, for attending on our local accessibility committee's behalf, and Deputy Mayor for chairing the district committee. That's awesome for that update. I believe we have our own flag, right? This is something that's a bit unusual.
Yes, we had that last term. We had that created and made. We really wanted to showcase, and that's what we did take was from the Government of Canada sort of website, the different disabilities to reflect all encompassing, and not so that people just, when they think of accessibility, they tend to think of wheelchairs.
Right.
And that global sort of symbol. We are very appreciative of the one that we created that sort of symbolizes the, maybe less disabilities that people don't necessarily see, the hidden ones that are still out there. And so to be talked about and discussed and prevalent within their community.
That's great. That's something to be proud of. We have our own flag. I like that. All right, thank you. And I don't see any questions of Councillor Schumacher. So we'll move to item 10.5 under events and updates. And if people will humor me, I can start. The first event I wanted to highlight was the Kids Bike Rodeo, which is Thursday, June 8th. And we didn't do this during COVID, but it started before COVID. It's starting at 4:30 to 6:30 at the Huntsville Public School. The rain date will be the Canada Summit Centre. And what it is, it's for kids that are age 4 to 9. There'll be a bike clinic, an obstacle course, and learning all about bike safety. And of course, because of that, we're partnered with the OPP, Rotary Club, and originated with the Sport Lab, Lowell Grebe, and with the Kiwanis Club. So that's kind of a cool thing, and lots of kids turn out for that. Parents really like it too because it helps them work with their kids. So that's really fun. And the second item I wanted to refer to is the annual Mayor's Bike Ride. And I love this event. It started with former Mayor Aitchison, and he was always a bit of a riot in this because it started with a 12-kilometer ride through the town, and again partnered with the Sport Lab, Lowell Grebe, and other cyclists who were really promoting active transportation and physical activity and a healthy way of living, and also to show what cycling through your town would look like. And so you cycle through neighborhoods and up to, this year it's a 10-kilometer ride. I think originally it was 12, and I believe the first year with former Mayor Aitchison, he was gung-ho at the very beginning, and after the first or second kilometer, there, where did Mayor Aitchison go? Some of us, I may be wrong, and if he was here, he'd tell me I was not right. I was not being accurate at all. But I really kudos to him, and it's a great event. And the reason why I really want to highlight it this year is we've promoted it at every one of our new committees. And our staff have been working really hard at making this somewhat different because we have sponsors this time. And this time being, we've raised, I think, and I will announce the sponsors when we know the total number at the event, but we do know what we want to do is purchase bicycles and helmets for kids in need. And at last count, I believe we have at least enough in the way of sponsorship funding for 6 bicycles and 6 helmets. So given it's our first year of sponsoring this, I'm really, really excited, and we're hopeful that we'll get over 100 participants. So I'm challenging council, whoever would like to join us. It's on Thursday, June 15th, from 6 to 8 p.m., and literally you are finished by 8 p.m. Doesn't take that long. We meet in Rivermill Park, and as I said, it's a 10-kilometer ride. So I'm really excited about it and hope that as many people will come out to it as possible. So, no questions about that? Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald?
Did you want to share where that sponsorship information may be available?
Yes, it will be posted online, and I thought I might have, it will be posted online for sure. And where it will be available on the ride, I don't know the details yet, but it will be, I'm sure, when I've done the ride before, it's a bit like a golf tournament. There will be signage throughout that states who the different sponsors are.
Yeah, I think that maybe we could generate some more sponsorship. Who should we contact is my question.
Oh, that was your question?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was a good question. Yes. I'm not very good at the sponsorship stuff. I would think Director Babineau would be a good place to start. That would be great. And should I give any more information? Yes. I'm looking at Director Babineau is not joining us tonight because she was a little under the weather. So if she was here, that would be fantastic. Director McKenzie looks like she will speak to this, and that's really great. Director McKenzie.
I'm not going to say too much. I was just going to say that I believe that Trish is actually looking after it. So if you reach out to her, she'd be able to help.
Okay,
with the sponsorships.
okay. So do we have Trish's email? Could I do that right? Everybody, Trish would be a good place. Okay, perfect. Thank you for the question. I should have been prepared. I'm just so excited. I want people to come out. All right. Yes, Councillor Morrison.
I will just say that I want us to do a way better event than Mayor Aitchison ever had. So I'm challenging everybody to come out so we can rub it in his face and say we're better. So please, whatever numbers we got at Scotty's, let's do better.
All right, and that's great, thank you. I know at this point, because there are several staff members who've been working on this, and I periodically get updates, I know it's already going to be better. I know it. But we have to keep promoting it, for sure, and we will rub it in his face. That would, for sure, we have to. All right, any other questions around that? Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Schumacher, who's going to continue with some events that we need to get out there.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, so further to the other community services events that we have going on, and yes, I know the Community Services Department is working very hard on both of those, the bike rodeo and the Mayor's Bike Ride to be the success that hopefully they are going to be. We also have, and I want to mention it tonight because it will be before our next council meeting, so that is June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. And we will doing an event on Wednesday, June 21st from 4 until 8 p.m., and that's at Rivermo Park. There will be a rain location of the Algonquin Theatre, if of course it rains. It's a town initiative with a small committee, Indigenous participation, and partnered with the Huntsville Festival of the Arts to create this event. It includes Indigenous vendors, educational booths, the ribbon skirt exhibit, and live performances by an Indigenous artist. And we are very happy to have this going on. I know I attended last year, and it was a great event last year as well. One of the performers is actually coming back to Algonquin Theatre to do his own. He has won like Juno Awards and whatnot, and he was here last year, so it's kind of neat to see that progression as an Indigenous artist and to see the stage that we have presented and opportunities for that. So hopefully we'll see everyone out that evening. And then lastly, of course, we have coming up, which will be after the June meeting, but very closely after the June meeting, is of course Canada Day on Saturday, July 1st. And of course that starts at 10 a.m. and we are back at Muskoka Heritage Place again. So it's the kickoff to Canada Day, opening of the village. We have had a soft opening, just so those of you who are aware of Muskoka Heritage Place this past weekend, but that one then really kicks off Muskoka Heritage Place. We start the train going and everything. So there will be complimentary admission to Pioneer Village, and fees will apply just to the steam train. So it's free to enter the village and wander around on Canada Day. The only admission piece would then be the steam train on that day. Breakfast and lunch is available through the Rotary Club of Huntsville. There will be face painting, music, entertainment, narration, family activities throughout the park. And yeah, pretty much that is it. Oh, we do have Bruce Kruger's coming to be the town crier for us for Huntsville this year, which should be great. And Captain Hunt will be there. And there, of course, will be cupcakes handed out by all of us. So please come out and join us for Canada Day.
That's great. Thank you for doing that, Councillor Schumacher. That's all good events. It's really, really exciting. Would anyone else like to just speak to it? Yes, Councillor Clark.
Can I just speak about something that's already happened, an event, if that's fine with everybody?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that my wife and my son Wesley attended the Medill Church 150 celebration, so that was a good day. I think you were there, Mayor Alcock.
I spoke.
They had a few hot dogs, got a tour, and they said it was a good day. So I think it was a well-attended event.
It was.
And I just wanted to say we appreciate all the work that was done by the volunteers that day.
And thank you for raising that. The remarkable thing is they had a fundraising goal of over $200,000, and they were successful in getting a Trillium grant that the town of Huntsville, our previous mayor, sent a letter in support of that grant. And I think 2 letters actually went out with support from council and support from the mayor. And so they very much appreciated that. Plus, the previous council supported the fundraising effort with $25,000 as well. So it was a great event. It was really fun to see. And the restoration of Medill Church is going to be another huge asset for our cultural landscape. So it will be so exciting once it's all done. And as far as events, Councillor Stone also referred to the Fairburn groundbreaking today, which was, so many people. And of course, the minister, Calandra, was there speaking as well, and Minister Smith, Graydon Smith, and MP Scott Aitchison, and Chair Lehman all spoke, and just what an exciting day it was. So, any other events that we're missing, upcoming? Okay, yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment. I'm just wondering, with so many events coming up and so being so active, I'm just wondering if we could put some little work on the deputy clerk, maybe send out the invitations to us, so we all goes directly into our calendars and we all know they're happening.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. That's a very good idea. I think there's a little bit of some sort of underlying thing there. That's a great idea, because it's easy to miss the events. It is. Well, for example, I understand there was a fantastic staff barbecue that someone from the Rotary asked me about, that Rotary had prepared the luncheon. It was, I know you were, but I was at district, so it conflicted. And I didn't know that it was happening, actually, until the day. It's a great suggestion, Deputy Mayor Armour. I very much would appreciate that. All right, so with that, we are now moving into closed. Would everyone like a break? Yes, so we're going to break before we move into, we're going into a break right now for 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we are live. And with that, I do have a motion moved by Councillor Cluche, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 7:25 p.m. For the purpose of considering the following matters pertaining to the following sections under the Municipal Act 2001. 11.1, Section 239(2)E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. 11.1.1, confidential report development 2023-67, OLT-22-0092976, Langmaid Island Corporation, 3933 and 4215 South Portage Road. 11.1.2, confidential report development 2023-68, OLT-21 001611 Wilson, 32 King Crescent. And then finally, 11.2, Section 239(2)B, personal or personnel? Personal, sorry, okay. Personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 11.2.1, verbal report, Operations and Protective Services Division. Questions or comments? All those in favor? And that carries. So I do, now that we are in open, I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Cluche. Be it resolved that town staff are authorized and directed to work with the appellant to finalize the settlement as noted in Report Development -2023-67 with respect to OLT 22-002976 -3933 and 4215 South Portage Road, otherwise Langmaid's Island Corporation, and further that staff are further authorized to approve any minor adjustments and modifications if required, and further that the CAO be authorized and directed to execute on behalf of the town any minutes of settlement and any amendments thereto. Questions? I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Motion, I have a motion moved by Councillor Cluche, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that town staff are authorized and directed to work with the appellant to finalize the settlement as noted in Report Development 2023-68 with respect to OLT -21-001611-32 King Crescent, otherwise Wilson, and further that staff are further authorized to approve any minor adjustments and modifications if required, and further that the CAO be authorized and directed to execute on behalf of the town any minutes of settlement and any amendments thereto. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That carries. Okay. And just a verbal report, we also had business in closed, dealing with a verbal report on operations and protective services. Staff provided a brief verbal report on an operations and protective services matter. No staff direction was provided. Thank you. And with that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2023-64 be received and passed this 23rd day of May 2023. All those in favor? And that's carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 7:51 p.m. Not bad. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you all. That's